This is part 2 of fractions, where we are going to value fractions, deciding which fractions are bigger or smaller. First question. Now, notice, number 1, that all the denominators are the same. Specifically, all of them are 100. So the way I think about this is like the scores for an exam, right? 51 out of 100 and so on and so forth. The question asks, in descending order, arrange them. So descending as in from largest to the smallest. So if you think of it as an exam score, it's quite obvious that 92 out of 100 is the highest score, and then you go down to 51 to 17 to 7 being the smallest. Yeah. So point of note, when the denominators are all the same, you can value the fractions based on the numerators. That's it. If, again, the denominators are all the same. The answer, therefore, is this. Question 2. Which one of the fractions is the largest? Okay, we're going to value the fractions based on which one is the largest. In this case, the numerators are all the same. They are all 1. So, okay, let's judge which one is the largest. You may be tempted to see, oh, 9 is the largest, therefore 1 over 9 is the largest fraction. Actually, is the opposite. So just now I was talking about the fractions, think of them as scores in an exam, right? In this case, think of them as 1 pizza shared with 9 people, 1 pizza shared with 7 people, 1 pizza shared with 3 people. Now, if you're going to take 1 pizza and share it with 9 people, you're cutting the pizza up 9 times. Those are small pieces, right? Versus that same pizza shared with only 3 people. You cut it only 3 times, each slice is actually a lot bigger than 9. What's the pattern here? The larger the denominator, the smaller the fraction, especially when all the numerators are the same. So what does 1 over 9,000 really mean? You're cutting 1 pizza up 9,000 times. That's a very, very small fraction. So the largest fraction here is actually 1/3. Alright, so we are now going to arrange in ascending order, which means from smallest fraction to the largest fraction. Okay, first thing we notice is all the numerators are the same. So the larger the denominator, the smaller the fraction. Again, think of this as 1 pizza shared with 300 people. Okay, good luck having feeling anything in your tummy, right? So the largest fraction here actually turns out to be 1 over 3. So let's have the smallest fraction first. There you go, 1 over 300. All the way to the largest fraction, which is 1 over 3. Now, our job so far has been quite easy because all the numerators are the same. So we can just focus on the denominators. Here again, we have the numerators being the same. So let's look only at the denominators. Descending order. So we start off with the largest fraction. The largest fraction here actually is the smallest denominator. So think of this as 3 pizzas shared with 1 person. So 1 person is having 3 whole pizzas compared to 3 pizzas shared with 3 people. Compare that with 3 pizzas shared with 111 people. This is actually the smallest fraction. So descending, let's start with the largest, shall we? That's going to be smallest denominator, largest fraction, largest denominator, smallest fraction. Okay, what's the answer then? Okay, the largest fraction is this, all the way to the smallest fraction. For this question, we've got same denominators, so let's look at the numerators. Now, the rule here is the opposite of the previous question. Here, the larger the numerator, the larger the fraction. So think of this as sharing with 3 people, right? Okay, so we've got 100 pizzas shared with 3 people. That's a lot of pizzas per person compared to just 2. Okay, 2 pizzas shared with 3 people. Each person is not even going to get 1 whole pizza, whereas this one, it's a lot. Okay, so descending order, largest fraction will be when the denominators are all the same, just judge based on the numerators. The larger the number, the larger the fraction. The smaller the number, the smaller the fraction. Here we have numerators that are all 5, so the smallest fraction here will be the one with the largest denominator. So 5 pizzas shared with 9 people. That's the smallest fraction here. Therefore, the answer is the third one. Arrange the following in ascending order, which means we want the smallest fraction first. Well, I have an improper here, I have a mixed number, I have another improper fraction here. The first step will therefore be to convert each of them. Well, what I did here was to look at the denominators 5, 6, and 3 and turn them all to the same denominator, 30, okay, 30 and 30. Not just that, I converted them all to improper fractions. So with the denominators being the same, I just need to look at the numerators now. Ascending. What's the smallest one over here? It's the 35, isn't it? Okay, and then the next smallest will be this, and followed by this. Okay, but take note, we are not going to write this as our answer, are we? So the middle fraction is actually 1 and 1/6. That's the smallest one. Rank number 2 is actually not 36/30, that's 6/5, followed by the last one, 4/3. The questions are getting trickier now. We've got none of the numerators the same. We've got none of the denominators the same. We also have improper fractions and mixed numbers. So how do we compare them based on value? The first thing is, well, I'm going to write them as equivalent fractions with 6 as the denominator. Also, for simplicity's sake, I'm going to make sure they are all in improper fraction form. Now, because the denominators are all the same, 6, 6, and 6, the largest one here will be the one with the largest numerator. So it's 15, followed by 10, followed by 7. Of course, take note, do not write this. The answer is the original fraction, so that's 5/2, rank number 1, 1 and 2/3, followed by 7/6. Arrange in descending order. So here we have none of the numerators the same, none of the denominators the same. But thankfully, look at the denominators here. They can all be turned easily into 12, can it not? So let's do that. We are going to multiply by 2, both sides, and then we get 2 12s, 8 12s, 9 12s. Okay, in descending order, what's the largest fraction over here? So the largest one will be the one with the largest numerator. Think of this as total marks of 12. This student got 9. Well, that's the largest score, isn't it? Right? Followed by the student who got 8/12, and then finally 5/12 and 2/12. So I've ranked them accordingly, but make sure that I write only the original fraction that's given to us in the question. Okay, so rank 1 will be 3/4, rank 1, rank 2, 2/3, so on and so forth. Arrange from the largest to the smallest. Again, the numerators and the denominators are not the same. So what I did in this case, looking at 3, 9, and 2, and 2, 8, and 1, I realized it's easier to convert all the numerators to 8. And that's what I did. Multiply by 4, multiply by 4. So we got 8/12, 8/9, times 8 times 8, 8/16. Now that the numerators are all the same, okay, which one is the largest fraction? It will be the one with the smallest denominator. Why? Think of this as 8 pizzas shared with only 9 people compared to sharing with 16 and 12, okay? So this is definitely the largest fraction. So the original fraction will be written down, 8/9, followed by the next one will be 2/3, and don't write 8/12, okay? And the last one, the smallest fraction, will be 8/16. Why? 8 pizzas shared with the most people. 8 divided by 16. So this is the smallest fraction here. For this question, again, we are having improper fractions and mixed numbers. So I'm going to show you an example of sometimes when the question allows you to use methods that are quite simple, right? Sometimes certain numbers make it easy. What do I mean by that? Okay, look at 5/4. Can I not turn it into 1 and 1/4? Yeah. Well, 1 and 1/6, leave it alone. 10/9, 1 and 1/9. Okay, now I have all the whole numbers being 1. All right, they are the same. And what do you know? I happen to have all the numerators the same. Does that not make comparison easy? I think so. Ascending order. What then is the smallest fraction? It's the one with the largest denominator. Therefore, this is the smallest, followed by this, followed by the smallest denominator is the largest fraction. Think of 1 pizza shared with 4 compared to 1 pizza shared with 9. This is the smallest, this is the largest. So make sure that you write the original fractions down. And there we go. 10/9, followed by 1 and 1/6, followed by 5/4. All the numerators here are 1s, so in ascending order, let's have the smallest fraction, which is the one with the largest denominator, that's the smallest fraction. And the largest fraction is the one with the smallest denominator. The answer, therefore, list them down, will be 1/9, followed by 1/7, followed by 1/5, and lastly 1/3. So given this question here, I noticed that all the fractions given are the same. It's the same 3/8, 1/2, and 4/5. Yeah. So I'm going to arrange them myself with my own working. So looking at these three fractions, let's turn the numerators all to 12. Okay, so I have the equivalent fractions here. Now, in ascending order, which one is the smallest fraction here? The one with the largest denominator, 12 pieces shared with 32 people. Okay, so rank number 1, and then the next largest is 24, so that's rank 2, and the largest fraction here is the smallest denominator, right? So this is going to be rank 3. And which one is the answer with rank 1, 3/8? It is actually answer number 4. Right, arranged in ascending order, we have none of the numerators and the denominators the same. So let's decide, shall we change 4, 1, and 5? Or should we change 7, 4, and 11? I think the numerators are easier to convert, yeah? So let's turn all the numerators to 20. So I'm going to multiply by 5 to get this. Multiply by 20, get this. Multiply by 4, get this. Okay, ascending order. We'll start off with the smallest fraction. The smallest fraction, again, is the one with the largest denominator. So rank 1, rank 2, and rank 3. So make sure that in your final answer, you copy the original fractions. Here we have 4 fractions and they all look very different, but thankfully, looking at the denominators, they are multiples of 5, so it's easier to convert them, make them the same. So let's have equivalent fractions first of all. Now there are other numbers to choose from. I just decided to convert all to 500 as the denominator. Now from here, how do you decide which one is the smallest fraction? Well, it's the one with the smallest numerator. So that will be that 195 over here. We'll choose the original fraction, followed by the 200 original fraction, followed by the 204, which is the 51, and finally 210, which is that 21 over 50. Now, if your foundational knowledge in fractions is good, sometimes you can use elimination, you can discount, you can ignore some answers straight away and make your life quite a lot easier. So what do I mean by that? Fractions, which one is the smallest? Okay, look at this. If I know that I've got one whole and something, and this improper fraction here is more than one whole, it's 1 whole and 1/6. When looking for the smallest fraction, and I have small fractions smaller than 1 whole, does that not mean that I can completely ignore 1 1/4 and 7/6? Yeah. So now I just got to decide between 2/5 and 2/3. Which one is the smaller one? 2/5, 2/3. Which one is the smallest one? The one with the larger denominator. So that's it. This one is smallest, 2/5. For this question, I'm going to compare all these fractions, none of which have the numerators the same as this and the denominators the same as this. Okay, I'm going to compare to 5/12. Well, the easiest thing to do, in my opinion, is to convert all these 4 fractions to equivalents with 5 as the numerator. Well, when the numerators are all 5, the one that is greater than this fraction will be the one with the smaller, a denominator that's smaller than 12. And the only one is 10 over here. The rest all have denominators larger than 12. The one that's smaller than 12 is 5/10. So think of this as 5 pizzas shared with 12. Which one is greater than that? Well, you know what? 5 pizzas shared with only 10 people is going to be a larger fraction than this. So the answer, therefore, is 1/2. Another way to value fractions is to use equivalent fractions. What do I mean by that? So I'm going to list down the options given to me, followed by equivalent fractions of 1/4. So when you look at 1/3, 1/4, which one is this smaller? Is it smaller than 1/4? Which is what the question is asking for. Which one is smaller than 1/4? In fact, this is larger. It has a smaller denominator. So this is actually a larger fraction than 1/4. Okay, next, look at 1/4. I can convert it to 2/8. Why do I want to do that? Now I can compare these two fractions. Which one is this smaller? No, it's not. It's actually larger than 1/4 because look, the denominator is smaller than 8. So this 2/7 here is actually smaller than 1/4. Sorry, it's larger than 1/4. Next, 3/10. Okay, equivalent of that of 1/4 is 3/12. Now that I've made the numerators the same, look, the denominator is smaller. So this fraction is actually larger than 1/4. 4/7, okay, equivalent fraction with numerator 4 is 4/16. Now comparing the fractions here, this is smaller. Why? Because the denominator is larger. Ergo, hence, therefore, the answer is 4/17. So value them from smallest to the largest. Well, the first thing I do is to turn everything into fractions with numerators 6. Now it's clear that the largest fraction here is the one that is larger than 1 whole. Yeah, so this is the largest, rank 3. Now which one is the smallest then? Well, look at this. The smallest one here will be the one with the largest denominator. This is 6 over 10 compared to 6 over 9. So this is actually larger, this is smaller. So this makes it the smallest fraction, 3/5, rank number 1, 2/3, rank 2, and the one that's greater than 1 whole, right, will be this. Again, I'm going to list these 4 fractions and compare them to equivalent fractions of 1/4. Okay, so I'm given 11 over 32. You know what? I'm going to take 1/4 and convert it to a fraction with numerator 11. Now, then I'm going to look. Okay, look at this. This is actually larger. Why? The denom is smaller. So I would say this is a larger fraction, so it's out. I'm looking for the smaller one. And if you look, which one has a larger denominator, right? It's actually going to be this one. So when you are converting the fractions to have the same numerators, look, this denominator is larger than this denominator. In other words, 3 over 20 is the fraction that we're looking for. Right, we're comparing these fractions to 2/5. Now, the good news is, look at this, numerator 1, 1, 2, 2. That makes it pretty easy, isn't it? Okay, so 1/3 is 2/6. Now, look at this. This is actually smaller. Why? The numerator is larger. Sorry, the denominator is larger. So 2/6 is actually smaller than 2/5, so out. 2/8 is actually smaller than 2/5, so it's out. Now 2/3 is larger than 2/5. So the answer is number 3, 2/3. Which is the greatest in value? Well, the first thing you should do is to ask yourself, does the question make our lives easier by giving us an obvious fraction that is the greatest? For example, one of the fractions has 1 whole, right? For example, then that's the greatest one, okay? But none of them are larger than 1 whole. So, okay, we have to do a bit more work over here. Now, I'm going to introduce a concept here called distance to 1 whole. What do I mean by that? If you have 2/3, how far are you away from 1 whole? 1/3. For example, you finish 2/3 of your rice, you have 1/3 more to go. You finish 4/5 of your rice, you have 1/5 more to go. 9/10, 1/10 left to go. 11/12, 1/12 left to go. Okay, which is the largest fraction? It's kind of like asking who ran the greatest distance, right? Now, do you agree who ran the greatest distance is like whoever is closest to the finishing line, the one that has the smallest difference to the finishing line. So think of 1 whole then as the finishing line. And which one has the smallest difference to the finishing line? It's this one. Look, 1/12 is the smallest difference here. Therefore, which one is the greatest in value? That's 11 over 12, right? This has the smallest difference to the finishing line of 1 whole, making this the largest fraction. If you're confused, don't worry, I have a question later on mentioned in the description below, right? You can go to the timestamp and I will explain visually what I mean with this concept of distance to 1 whole. Arrange in ascending order over here. So the first thing I will do is to ask myself, okay, so I've got a half in the middle. That's quite obvious. I want a fraction that is the smallest one though, ascending order, smallest fraction. So this, look at 11. If I divide that by 2, it's 5.5, is it not? So this is actually less than half. If it's 5.5, then it's exactly half, but this is less than half. Now 8 units divided by 2 is 4, isn't it? So this is clearly more than half a fraction. What does that mean? What's the smallest value here? It will be this guy, lesser than half, followed by exactly half, followed by greater than half. So here we don't have to convert the numerators or the denominators. We can use a bit of basic knowledge to decide. Which has the largest value? Now look at the numerators, 1, 3, 4, 6. Can they not all be turned to 12 fairly easily? So let's do that. So 1/3 is 12 over 36, 12 over 20, okay, 12 over 30, 21, 12 over 22. Okay, which one has the largest value? Now, the one with the largest value is the one with the smallest denominator. And which one is the smallest? That's 20. So make sure you choose the original fraction, 3/5. Now let's compare all these fractions to 1 over 6. So I have written them down over here. And what are the equivalents of 1 over 6? Okay, let's see. Numerators 3, numerators 3. All right, look at this. This one is larger. The denominator is smaller. So this is a larger fraction. Now, I want the one that's smaller. Okay, let's look. Numerator 7, fine. Okay, right. 19 compared to 42. Wait, this is a larger fraction. 29 compared to 24. Whoa, this is the one we want. Compared to 4 over 24, 4 over 29 is the smaller fraction. So this, number 3, is our answer. Which of the following is the smallest? Well, let's take a look and make sure none of them are improper fractions or have one whole. Because, you know, for example, if this is one whole something, one whole something, one whole something, and you have a half, then obviously the answer is 1. Yeah. So sometimes you need to take a look and see whether the question is making life easy for you. In this case, not really. All of them are not improper fractions. Okay, let's take a look. More than half, right? So this is half exactly. For 5 units, half is 2.5 units, isn't it? So with 3 units, that's more than half as well. For 20 units, half of that is 10 units. But this is 13, so this is also more than half. For 12 units, half of it will be 6 units. And this is just 5. It's not even half. So this is exactly half, this is less than half. So which one is the smallest? The one that's less than half. So answer is number 2. So which one is in descending order? I noticed that all these 4 fractions are the same. So let's write them down and compare. Looking at the numerators, I realized that they can all be turned to 40 quite easily. And then let's look, descending order. Let's start with the largest one. The largest one will be the one with the smallest denominator. So that's 52 here. So I noticed that the first fraction should be 10 over 13. That means it's either 3 or 4. Okay, then what's the next largest? That would be 70. So the next fraction should be 4 over 7. Therefore, the answer is choice number 4. Okay, time to use equivalent fractions. So write the 4 fractions down. And then look, okay, 1/3. Let's compare it to 10 over 33. Let's make the numerators 10. And look at this, right? Which one is greater? Look, this one is actually smaller, isn't it? Because the denominator is larger. So this is a smaller fraction than 1/3. Next, okay, numerators are both 8. That's fine. Look at this. This is larger. So this is a smaller fraction than 1/3. Now look at the next fraction. The denominator is smaller. So this is the larger fraction, which means this is the answer we are looking for. And just to confirm, the last choice here, the denominator is larger than 1/3. Okay, therefore, the answer we are looking for is number 3. When it comes to half, it's pretty easy to figure out which one is the greater one. What do I mean by that? Look at 3 over 8. If you take 8 units and you divide by 2, okay, that's 4 units, isn't it? So is 3 over 8 greater than 4? Nope. It's less than half. This is less than half. Because half exactly would be 4 units, but this is just 3 units. If you take 37 units, you divide by 2, that's 18.5 units. Is this half? No, it's actually less than half. 83 divided by 2, this is it. Exactly half would be 41.5 units, but this is 42. So this is the fraction we're looking for. This is greater than half. Next, 190 divided by 2 is 95. This is exactly half. So we want a fraction greater than half, that it would be number 3. And equivalent fractions, let's go. Let's copy them down, compare to equivalents of 1/4. So numerator 11, numerator 11. All right, is this smaller? No, actually this is larger. This is a smaller denominator than this, so this is a larger fraction than 1/4. Next up, this is also larger because the 24 compared to the 28. Next one, this is smaller now because with the numerators being the same, this is a smaller fraction than this. Okay, just to confirm, this is larger as a fraction compared to 5 over 20. So the answer we're looking for is number 3. Again, using equivalence, which one is smaller than 1/4? So if you look at equivalence of 1/4, is this smaller? No, actually this is larger. Okay, next, 1/4 convert to 2/8. This is again a larger fraction. The denominator here is smaller, so this is a larger fraction. Now this is the one that's smaller. Arrange in descending order. So we've got none of the numerators the same, but look at the denominators. They can all be turned into 12 fairly easily. So let's do that. Okay, so let's turn the denominators to 12, and then let's take a look. Which one is the largest fraction here? Okay, so the largest fraction will therefore be the largest numerator, and that will be ranked number 1. Look at this 9 here. So this student, let's say, got 9 out of 12, right? That's pretty good. The next better student will be 8 over 12. So the final answer therefore is 3/4, 2/3, 5/12, followed by 1/6. Arrange the following fractions in ascending order. Well, not even one whole, but larger than 1 whole. So we know for sure that this is the last fraction that we're going to use. What about the other two then? Look at the numerators 2 and 3. We can turn them both to 6. And okay, which one is the smaller one? The one with the larger denominator. So the first fraction therefore is 3/5, followed by 2/3, followed by the largest one, 1 1/4. Arrange in ascending order from the smallest to the largest. Okay, so let's take a look here. How about we turn all the numerators to 20? Okay, so ascending order, let's start with the smallest fraction. The smallest fraction will be the one that is divided the most, which would be this 45 right here. So the first ranking is therefore 4/9, followed by the next largest denominator, that's 1/2, and then followed by 5/6. So 1, 2, 3, original fractions. So which of these fractions has the largest value? Is our life easy here? Is there any one that's obviously 1 whole or improper? No. So all of them are less than 1 whole. So we have to do a bit of work here. Notice that the denominators are all factors of 36. Okay, so let's convert all of them to having 36 as a denominator. Okay, from here, which one is the largest? Well, think of this as an exam score. Who scored the highest? That's basically this guy right here with 30/36. Therefore, the answer is 5/6. So which of these fractions is the smallest? Well, look at the denominators. They can all be turned to 12 quite easily. You know, if you want to, you can turn all the numerators to 15. That's fine too. So let's turn all of them to 12 as the denominator, which is the smallest, okay? With the denominators the same, well, think of it as an exam, okay? And which one is the smallest? The one with the smallest numerators. So 1/6 here is the smallest fraction. In descending order, so let's start with the largest fraction, but before we do that, we have to compare them, don't we? So look at the denominators. They can all be turned to 12. No, they can all turn to 24, I mean, okay? So 12, 24, all right, all that. Okay, descending. So which one is the largest fraction here? Well, it will be the one with the largest numerator, okay? And that is 7/8 here. Look at this guy. So rank 1, rank 2, rank 3, rank 4, and finally just list the original fractions according to the rankings. Arrange in ascending order, okay? Before that, let's look at the numerators and denominators. Well, let's turn them all to 30, shall we? The denominators, I mean. So which one is the smallest fraction from here, right? It would be the one with the smallest numerator. So based on rankings, this is the first, this is the second, and this is the third. This is the largest fraction. Think of this guy as getting 27 marks out of 30 marks. So 9/10 is the last fraction. In ascending order here, we're going to compare them. So let's turn them all into, right, having 30 as the numerator. Okay, and then let's compare which one is the smallest here. The smallest one will be the one that's cut up the most. So think of this, or shared the most. So think of this as 30 pizzas shared with 54. Okay, shared with the most people. So this is the smallest fraction. So the rankings will therefore be 5/9, followed by, look at this, shared with 50 people. So that's 3/5. And lastly, 2/3. Why? Shared only with 45 people. So this is going to result in the largest fraction actually. So the smallest is shared with the most, the largest is shared with the fewest. Okay, let's compare. Which one is greater than 3/5? So let's have equivalent fractions, shall we? Look at 5/10. Okay, so let's turn this to 15/30 and compare it to 3/5, which is 15/25. Is this larger? Don't think so. It has a larger denominator. This is actually smaller. Okay, next. 11/20 compared to 3/5. Let's see. If both are 33 as the numerator, let's take a look. This is actually smaller, so we do not want this. Next, 16/25 turns to 48/75. 3/5 becomes 48/80. Okay, look at the denominator now. This is 75, which is smaller than 80. So voila, this is the fraction we're looking for because this is larger than this. So the answer therefore is number 3. And now off we go to level 2 questions. So this is my introduction to a new concept called distance to one whole, right? Okay, so let me introduce that with an example when it comes to racing. So let's say we've got person A and person B over here, and I ask you, who is closer to the finishing line? It's obvious because visually you can tell that A is closer to the finishing line. Now, one way to think about it is whoever's closer to the finishing line is the one that has the smaller difference to the finishing line. Does that look clear to you? This is a smaller difference compared to this difference here. So this is the first point you have to understand, which is the smaller the difference, the closer to the finish. So if I bring in fractions, the concept remains the same. So let's have the finishing line be one whole. And let's say A's fraction is 7/8 and B's fraction is 5/8. And my question is, which fraction is larger? Based on which fraction is closer to 1 whole? Which fraction is larger? Well, obviously, again, you can tell based on the length of the lines that 7 over 8 is larger. But let's do this without visuals, okay? So think of it as the difference for 7 over 8 to 1 whole is 1 over 8. Whereas the difference for 5 over 8 to 1 whole is 3 over 8. And what's the concept to remember? The smaller the difference, the larger the fraction. And in this case, it's easy to tell this difference is smaller because, well, the denominators are the same. Clearly, 1 over 8 is smaller than 3 over 8. So again, the takeaway here is we don't have to look visually to tell which fraction is larger. Just understand if the distance to 1 whole is smaller, this is the larger fraction. Right, okay, let's have it. Let's do the first question applying the new idea. Now, take a look at this. Which one is the largest? So we are expecting one fraction for the answer, yeah? Now, if you're going to compare the fractions based on making the numerators or the denominators the same, you are going to spend a very, very long time because look, the lowest common multiple is going to be huge. All right. Now, this is where the new technique comes in. You're going to compare the fractions based on their distance to 1 whole. Okay, let's take a look. 4/5 is 1/5 from 1 whole. 5/6 is 1/6 from 1 whole, and for this and for this. Okay, which fraction is the largest? Think of it as which one is closest to 1 whole. Okay, the one closest to 1 whole is the one that it has the smallest difference to 1 whole. Get it? It's like this guy is almost touching the finishing line of 1 whole, right? The smallest distance between the swimmer and the finishing line, for example. Yeah. And how do we know this is the smallest difference? Well, look at all the differences. This one has the largest denominator. So this is the smallest difference, which also means this is the largest fraction. In fact, which one is the smallest fraction? It is the one with the largest difference to 1 whole. Okay, so that's it. Which one is closest to 1 whole? So we have 2/3 away from 1 whole, 2/5 away from 1 whole. Now this is past 1 whole. I think of this as overshooting the finishing line. All right, so overshooting by how much? 2/7. Well, this is 2/9 away from 1 whole. So let's form the diagram here. 1/3 is 2/3 from 1 whole, 3/5, 2/5 from 1 whole. This is 2/7 from 1 whole, 2/9 from 1 whole. Well, how convenient. The numerators here are all 2, which means we can easily compare. Well, which one is closest to 1 whole? The one with the smallest difference to 1 whole. And the smallest difference here is the one with the largest denominator. So the answer here, I would say the answer is number 4. The answer is the 4th fraction here, 1 and 2 over 9. Which of the following is closest to 1 whole? Let's form the diagram again. 3/4 is 1/4 from 1 whole. 11/12 is 1/12 away from 1 whole, and so on and so forth. And again, conveniently, our numerators are all 1, which means we can tell which is the smallest difference. That is the one, smallest difference, which also means it's the closest to 1 whole. The answer is therefore 11/12, not number 2. I was doing this like an MCQ question. So it's the second one, 11/12. So which one is closest to 1 whole here? Well, we got 1/4 away, 1/8 away, 1/6 away, and hey, this is an improper fraction, which means it's actually 1 whole and 1/3, which also means it's 1/3 away from 1 whole. So the distance is 1/4, 1/8, 1/6, and 1/3. Okay, which one is closest to 1 whole? That's the one with the smallest difference to 1 whole. Therefore, the answer is 7/8. All right, 4 options. Which one closest to 1 whole? Well, take a look. We've got 1/6, 1/8, 1/4, 1/5 away. And again, all the numerators are 1. So let's just look at the denominator. Which one has the largest denominator? This one right here. Which also means this is the smallest fraction out of the 4 here. What does that mean? It's the smallest distance away from 1 whole. Therefore, 7/8, choice number 2, is the answer. Which is closer to 1 whole? Let's take a look. We've got 1/3 away, 1/4 away from 1 whole, 1/6 past 1 whole, 1/2 past 1 whole. Okay, closest meaning the smallest difference. And this is the smallest difference, making 1 and 1/6 closest. All right, which one is closest to 1 whole? Let's take a look again. Now, we've got 9/8, which is also known as 1 and 1/8. which means it is 1/8 away from 1 whole. Now for 12 over 5, you can tell that it's actually more than 2 wholes, yeah? So we actually can disregard this because this is more than 2 wholes away. It's definitely very, very far away from 1 whole, right? So we can totally ignore this one. Okay, what about 8 over 7? That's 1 and 1 over 7, which means how far is it from 1 whole? 1 over 7. So far so good. We've got numerator 1, numerator 1. Cool. But look at this, 3/5 is actually 8 over 11 away from 1 whole. Which means we can't really compare with the numerators 1 up here. So let's turn all the numerators to 8, shall we? So times 8 times 8, giving us 8 over 64, times 8 times 8, 8 over 56. Now we can compare the 3 differences because the numerators are all the same now. Again, which is closest? Look for the one with the largest denominator, and this is it. So this is the smallest difference from 1 whole. Therefore, the answer is 9 over 8. Now we're going to have fractions that do not have the same numerators like the previous question. Okay, so distance from 1 whole for 1/3 is 2/3, right? Keep it here, nothing to do yet. For 1/4, the difference from 1 whole is 3/4. Difference from 1 whole here is 1/2. Difference from 1 whole is, okay, 2/5. Well, what do we have here? Numerators 2, 3, 1, 2. Now, before we can compare the fractions, we have to make either the numerators or the denominators the same. In this case, the numerators are easier. Okay, so we're going to times 3 and times 3, get this, get this, get this, get this. Therefore, which one is closest to 1 whole? It is the one, again, with the largest denominator, the smallest fraction. So the answer is 1 and 2/5. Which is closest to 1 whole? Let's write down the values. 2/3 is actually, in this case, turn it into, well, let's turn the numerators to 10. All right, and which one is closest to 1 whole? Well, it is the one with the smallest denominator. Why is that? Well, think of this as an exam, right? So this guy got 10 out of 15. Compare that to 10 out of 25, right? Out of these 4, which score is the closest to the full mark? In this case, the full mark is 1 whole, yeah? It is 10 out of 15. So this guy only lost 5 marks, whereas this one lost 15 marks, okay? And this one lost 6 marks, lost 8 marks. The one that lost the fewest marks is this guy, right? 5 marks away. So this is closest to 1 whole, 15 over 15. So number 1 is the answer. So which is closest to 1 whole? When you have 3/8, you are 5/8 away from 1 whole. 1/2, you're 1/2 away from 1 whole. 3/4, 1/4 away from 1 whole. 1 and 1/5, you're 1/5 past 1 whole. Okay, problem, we've got numerators 5, 1, 1, 1. Well, let's make all the numerators 5, shall we? Okay, at this point, which one is closest to 1 whole? The one that has the smallest difference. The one that has the smallest difference is this. Look at the denominator, it's huge. So this is the smallest difference to 1 whole, which means our answer is 1 and 1/5. For the previous questions, we have been asking nearest to 1 whole. Here we are doing it another way. Which one is nearest to 1/2? Okay, so let's take a look here. Well, first thing you notice is that more steps are needed. Okay, so given 3/4, compare that to 1/2. Well, what's an equivalent of 1/2? 2/4, isn't it? Okay, what's the distance from this to this? The difference is 1/4. Given 3/5, comparing it to 1/2, let's make the denominators the same, which means we are comparing really 6/10 with 5/10. Now the distance between them is 1/10. Okay, same story here. We're going to turn the new denominators and make them the same. So we are really comparing 6 over 14 to 7 over 14. The difference therefore is 1 over 14. Given 3/8, we are comparing to 1/2. How about we make the denominators the same? So we are comparing 3/8 with 4/8. So the difference is 1/8. Well, which one is closest to 1/2, meaning the smallest distance? There, 1 over 14. And how nice, all the numerators are 1. So we can easily see that this is the closest to 1/2. The answer, therefore, is not 6 over 14, it's 3 over 7. Alright, which one is closest to 1/2? Well, we're going to follow the same steps again. So 5 over 6 compared to 1/2. Well, let's compare 5 over 6 to 3 over 6. So the distance here is therefore 2 over 6, which we can reduce to 1/3. Next, we're comparing 5 over 7 to 1/2. How about compare 10 over 14 to 7 over 14? So the difference between them is, this should actually be 3 over 14, not 2 over 14, right? Scratch that, so 3 over 14. Next, we're going to compare 5/9 to 1/2, so let's make the denominators the same. So we're really comparing 10 over 18 to 9 over 18. The difference is 1 over 18. Here we've got 10 over 22 compared to 11 over 22. The difference is 1 over 22. Okay, which one is closest? The one with the smallest difference. Okay, therefore the answer is 5 over 11. Arrange in ascending order, which means starting with the smallest fraction. Well, we've got the whole numbers being 5 for all of them. So, okay, let's do a bit of conversion, shall we? Smallest, so let's turn this into a mixed number. So you see 7 wholes up there. Okay, let's have 1 whole added. So it's 6 wholes, leaving behind 2/5. Well, if you're going to look for the smallest fraction, it's definitely not the ones with with whole number 6. Yeah, we're going to look at 5 as the whole number and compare these two first. Which one is the smaller one? Well, thankfully the denominators are both 7, so we can tell that this is definitely the smaller one out of the two, which makes this the smallest out of the 4. Well, the next smallest must be this guy, number 2, with the whole number 5, yeah? Now we're going to look at the fractions with 6 as the whole number and compare just these two. Which one is the next smallest? Well, it's the one with the larger denominator. This is 2 over 5. So this is the smallest one, smaller one out of these two fractions. And therefore, this makes it the largest fraction. And don't forget, we are not going to copy this, okay? We're not going to copy this. We're going to copy what's given to us. So rank 1 will be 5 and 3/7. Rank 2 will be 5 and 5/7. Rank 3 will not be this, it will be this, okay? And finally, this is the last one. Which of the following is greater than half but smaller than 1/4? Okay, let's make a list here. Well, this symbol just means greater than half. That's one of the requirements. Smaller than 3/4. That's the other requirement. Okay, well, let's take a look. 3 over 8. Well, what's half of that? It's 4 over 8, isn't it? So it's definitely failing the first requirement, which is larger than half. It's not larger than half. Next, what's half of 5 units? It's 2.5, isn't it? This is way larger than half. So this satisfies the first requirement, 4 over 5. What's half of 10? 5, isn't it? But I want greater than half. This is exactly half, so it fails the first requirement. This is exactly half, so it's not greater than half. Next, what's half of 6? Half of 12, that's 6, right? So this passes the first requirement. It is larger than half. Okay, so seeing how 7 over 12 passed the first requirement, let's see if it satisfies the second requirement. Let's compare 7 over 12 to 3/4. Well, we can't because neither the numerators nor the denominators is the same. Alright, let's turn this to 12 as the denominator. Oh, looky here. 7 over 12 is smaller than 3/4 or smaller than 9 over 12. So what that tells us is this satisfies both rules. So the answer therefore is option 4. Identify the smallest and largest fraction. So basically we are expecting two answers. Now let's compare them. Which one is the smallest here? Look at the numerators. My gosh, they are not easy to convert, right? Denominators as well. So what does that mean? We can talk about distance to 1. We can find out what's the distance to 1. So given 7 over 9, the distance to 1 whole is 2 over 9. Next, we can ignore this fraction here because this is the smallest. It is less than half. The rest are all greater than half if you look at this. So we have already found one of the answers. This is the smallest fraction. Next, looking at 2/3. What's the distance to 1 whole? It is 1/3. Look at 4/7. The distance to 1 whole is 3/7. Numerators 2, 1, and 3. Not good. Let's turn them all to 6. Now we can tell which one is the largest fraction, the one with the smallest difference. And the one with the smallest difference is this. Therefore, the smallest fraction is 5 over 12. The largest fraction is 7 over 9. Okay, let's compare which one is bigger than 3/4. So first things first, 3 over 9 compared to 3/4. Look at the numerators. They are already the same. So is this smaller or bigger? Well, this is smaller. But we are looking for what's bigger, right? This fraction though is smaller than 3/4. Why? Look at the denominator, it's huge. Okay, next we're going to compare 4/5 here with 3/4. Can we compare at the moment? Not really. Look at 4 and 3, look at 5 and 4. Let's make something the same. In this case, the numerators. So times 3 times 3, that's 12 over 15. Times 4 times 4, that's 12 over 16. Oh, look at that. Which one is bigger over here? Is it this or is it this? This is bigger. Look, the denominator is smaller. So this is the larger fraction compared to 3/4. And what do you know? That's the answer. 4/5 is the answer. Not 12 over 15, 4/5. So sometimes you should look at a fraction and try and understand it from a different perspective. Okay, look at this. We are trying to find out which one is greater than 5/8. So the first question I ask myself is, okay, what's special about 5/8? It is just over half. Look, 8 units, right? Half would be 4 units. So 5/8 is actually just over half. Now, does that mean we can completely ignore choice number 1? Yeah. Which one is greater than a fraction that's just over half? If it's exactly half, why should we consider this? This is out, number 1, out. Okay, next. 2/3, is it larger than half? Yeah. Next, look at this. What's half of 7 units? 3.5. This is less than half. Next, look at choice number 3. The total units is 7, which means half of that is 3.5 units. But we have only got 2. So this is not even half. So we do not even have to consider number 3. Next, again, it's not even half. Half of 9 is 4.5. This is less than half. So the only one that's larger than half is choice number 2, 2/3. Arrange from greatest to the smallest. Well, let's take a look here. Well, you can either make the numerators or the denominators the same. Here, I'm applying the idea of distance to one whole, yeah? So distance to one whole is 1/4, 1/5, 1/6. Well, which one is the greatest? The one with the smallest difference. So look at this. This is the smallest difference. So rank 1, rank 2, followed by rank 3. This has the largest distance from one whole, making this the smallest fraction. So let's rank them. So 5/6 written here, followed by 4/5, followed by 3/4. So which one of the 4 here is smaller than 5/9? Okay, now looking at 18, like the denominator 18 and 27, I know I can turn this into denominators 18 and 27. So you know what I did? I just tried choice number 2. Let's see. If I convert this to times 3 times 3, 15/29. Sorry, 15/27. And hey, that's actually the answer. This is obviously smaller than 15/27. This is just 4/27, whereas this is 15/27. And just so happens that a lucky guess allowed me to get the answer quickly. So which one is closest to half? Okay, let's take a look here. 6/11 compared to half. Well, let's compare 12/22 to 11/22. Well, what's the distance to half here? The difference here is 1/22. Next, 7/13 compared to half. How about we compare 14/26 to 13/26? The difference between them, 1/26. Let's do the same for 9/19 compared to 1/2. Let's compare this to this. It's 1/38. Lastly, we've got 11/20 compared to 1/2. How about turn this to 10/20? So the difference is 1/20. Okay, which one is closest to 1/2? The one with the smallest difference. And this is the one with the smallest difference. Therefore, the original fraction is 9/19. And that's our answer. Which is nearest to 1/4? So let's do the listing again. 3/8 compared to 1/4. How about we compare 3/8 to 2/8? And the difference is 1/8. Next, 1/6 compared to 1/4. Well, how about we compare this to 3/12? And this is 2/12, is it not? So if this is 2/12, this is 3/12, the difference is 1/12. Next, 2/3 compared to 1/4. How about we compare 8/12 to 3/12? Well, this is 8/12 if you make the denominator 12, yeah? Minus 3/12, that's difference of 5/12. Okay, next. 1/5, we're going to compare it to 1/4. The difference being, right, it's 5/20 compared to 4/20. So that's 1/20. All right, which one is closest? Let's take a look. Which one is the smallest over here? So 1/8 compared to 1/12 compared to, oh my goodness, 5/12, 1/20. I don't like it. Why? The numerators are different now. 1, 1, 5, 1. So let's make the numerators all 5, shall we? So let's compare these 4 fractions. Okay, which one is the smallest? Well, this one is the smallest because it has a huge denominator right here. So this is nearest to 1/4. So our answer therefore is 1/5. Which fraction is smaller than this? 7/9, but greater than 1/2. Okay, now 1/2 is really easy to compare. So let's do the easy thing first. Let's choose those that are greater than 1/2. because that's one rule that's fulfilled already, right? So 1/2 of 3 units is 1.5 units. This is not even one. This is not even half. I want greater than half. So first, 1/3 is out. Half of 8 units is 4 units. So this is definitely greater than half. So let's put a tick here. Half of 11 units is 5.5. So this is greater than 5.5. So we can consider 6/11. Half of 12 units is 6 units. This is less than half. So we have now simplified our working to just comparing two fractions. Next, other rule is smaller than 7/9. Okay. So let's choose the one smaller than 7/9. Look at 7/8. Compared to 7/9, which has the same numerator, the denominator here is smaller. So 7/8 is actually larger than 7/9. We want smaller than 7/9 though. That leaves us with 6/11 as the answer. Arrange in descending order, which means starting from the largest. Look at the numerators. They are all so ugly, my gosh. Okay. Difficult to get the lowest common multiple. Same goes for the denominator. And this is when you start to bring in the distance to one whole concept. Yeah. So 5/6, the distance is 1/6 away from one whole. 7/8, the distance is 1/8 from one whole. 2/5, 3/5 from one whole. 1/2, 1/2 from one whole. Okay, numerators, take a look. 1, 1, 3, 1. No good. Let's turn the numerators all to 3. The largest fraction is the one with the smallest difference. Right here. So this is rank 1. Which one has the next smallest difference? It's actually this fraction, so rank 2. Followed by rank 3 and rank 4. So don't forget, write the original fractions down. So rank 1 is actually 7/8, followed by 5/6, followed by 1/2 and 2/5. Hopefully by now it is clear when you should use the distance to one whole concept. It is when the numbers look like this. They are extremely horrific, aren't they? Imagine trying to find a lowest common multiple here. Okay. Now, with 3/5, the distance to one whole is 2/5. Distance to one whole is 1/12, followed by 2/9, followed by 2/7. Well, the numerators are 2, 2, and 2. Only this guy sticks out like a sore thumb. So let's turn it into numerator 2, 2/24. Okay, ascending order. Which one is the smallest one? The smallest one will be the one with the largest difference. Okay, look, the denominator is so small, 5 only, compared to 24, 9, and 7. So this fraction right here is the smallest fraction. Next, this is pretty far away from the finishing line, so make sure that you choose this as rank 2, followed by this. And look at this. This is such a small distance away from one whole, which means this is the largest fraction right here, 11/12. So the answer therefore, if you list them, will be 3/5, followed by 5/7, followed by 7/9, and then 11/12. And this wraps up distance to one whole, level 2, valuing fractions. Hope you found the video useful and that you didn't notice my spelling mistake right here. So have a great day. Bye.